All right, let's jump right into this explainer for the last Arcane Part 2 because wow, the stakes have literally never been higher. This latest part just took a massive, super dark turn and it completely fractured our hero's journey into this meticulously designed split narrative. Today, we're doing a deep dive story analysis into the mechanics of these crazy events, really exploring how these plot layers are working overtime to keep us on the edge of our seats. Instead of your typical fantasy progression, where the newly discovered hero gets like a nice grace period to learn their powers, the writers totally subverted our expectations here. They tossed us headfirst into this really sophisticated dual-threaded storyline, and it is a wild ride. So we really have to start by unpacking that massive inciting incident. Remember the sheer visceral shock of that moment? Literally, right as Kian finally learns his true identity, the fact that he is in fact the last Arcane, the bottom just completely drops out of his reality. Out of nowhere, this terrifying black hand grabs his leg and yanks him away from everything he knows. It left us all basically screaming at our screens, where on earth did Kian disappear to? The suddenness of this abduction is just a masterclass in stripping a protagonist of their agency. Right when Kian is supposed to, step into his power and start his classic training montage, the narrative just rips the rug right out from under him. It plunges us straight into suspense and completely flips the standard Chosen One trope on its head. And the thing is, he wasn't just pulled into, the next room over, he was dragged straight into the Shadow Realm. We need to understand that the Shadow Realm isn't just a physical place that happens to have really bad lighting. No, it's this terrifying, oppressive, psychological battleground that's literally designed to trap its victims physically and mentally. And Kian enters this dark dimension carrying this immense, newly discovered burden of being the last Arcane. He's got the weight of this ultimate magical destiny on his shoulders, but absolutely zero time to process it. This realm feeds on fear and darkness, right? So by placing Kian here immediately after his big revelation, the story is forcing him to earn his title, not through some flashy magical combat, but through sheer, grueling mental resilience. Now, to pull this off, the writers have given us what's called a split arc, completely redefining the structure of Part 2. On one side, you have Kian's journey. It's dark, it's lonely, it's an intensely isolating psychological struggle. But on the other side, we have his friends who are still in the real world, and they represent this unified, action-packed front. This contrast right here is the vital engine driving the whole narrative forward. By bouncing us back and forth between Kian's terrifying internal isolation and his friends' desperate external teamwork, the story just cranks the tension up to 11. It honestly makes Kian's loneliness feel so much heavier, because we're actively watching the very support system he's been cut off from. Speaking of that support system, while Kian is trapped in all that psychological torment, total chaos is raining down back at the academy. It is complete pandemonium. The students, the faculty, they're entirely overwhelmed. But amidst all that chaos, a unified front emerges from our supporting cast, Lyra, Damon, and Ira. These loyal friends are left behind, but they absolutely refuse to give up on Kian. The story so smartly uses this exact moment to test what they're made of. Removing the Chosen One from the board was a highly deliberate choice to force these characters to evolve. They have to step up from being mere sidekicks into the primary drivers of the plot, and without their main hero, they don't panic, they organize. The focus shifts entirely to their sheer, unstoppable determination. And the urgency of their mission becomes the entire driving force of this real-world plotline. They've got 3 clear steps. Step 1, escape the overwhelming chaos of the academy before it collapses on top of them. Step 2, brave the famously terrifying Whisper Forest. And Step 3, find the Moon Crystal. This is a classic, super high-stakes quest that shifts the pacing right into high gear. Every single second counts here. The structure of this rescue mission gives us, the audience, a clear physical goal to anchor ourselves to while Kian is stuck in his nebulous psychological nightmare. If they can just check off these 3 incredibly dangerous boxes, they might actually have a chance to turn the tide. Now let's be clear about the Moon Crystal. It is not just some shiny magical paperweight. It's a crucial, unbelievably powerful artifact that dictates the physical stakes of the entire story. Hidden deep within the dangerous confines of the Whisper Forest, this crystal is basically a beacon of tangible hope. And the environment itself is super significant here too. Think about it. The sprawling, treacherous Whisper Forest perfectly mirrors the twisting, psychological labyrinth that Kian is trapped inside. For Lyra, Damon, and Era, acquiring this artifact is literally the only concrete way they can fight back against the darkness that took their friend. It anchors their desperate physical mission against Mordek's intangible fear. But let's jump back to the Shadow Realm for a second, where time just seems to maliciously slow down. Kian isn't alone in the dark for very long. We get this chilling realization. The first fragment of Mordek's soul awakens. Now notice the deliberate wording there. Mordek isn't whole yet, but even just a tiny fragment of his soul is enough to utterly dominate the Shadow Realm. Kion is incredibly vulnerable right now, right? He's desperately trying to understand his new identity, and the story immediately confronts him with the ultimate evil he's destined to fight. It is a brutal narrative strategy. It tests the very foundation of our hero before that foundation has even been fully built. So how exactly does an ancient evil attack a hero who doesn't even know his own strength yet? Well, not with a sword. He does it with a question. What is the truth about Kian's parents? It's this devastating, creeping tactic that pulls us directly into Kian's deepest psychological distress. We all thought we knew his backstory. Kian definitely thought he knew his backstory, but the Shadow Realm absolutely thrives on revealing hidden, painful truths. By dangling this distorted reality of his parents right in front of him, Mordek effortlessly bypasses any of Kian's latent magical defenses and just strikes directly at the very core of who he is. Mordek is purposefully weaponizing the past. He isn't trying to just beat Kian in a physical fight. Actually, scratch that. His primary goal is to make sure a fight never even happens by confusing and disorienting him, breaking the young hero's spirit from the inside out. And honestly, it's an incredibly effective strategy. If you can make a hero doubt his own history, doubt his parents, and doubt his fundamental identity, you completely neutralize his power before he can ever learn to wield it. The Shadow Realm functions like this awful echoing chamber where Mordek seamlessly manipulates reality and memory, basically ensuring Kian is way too paralyzed by grief and confusion to even attempt fighting back. Meanwhile, as Kian is basically drowning in all this mental manipulation, a massive physical climax erupts back in the real world. Deep in the Whisper Forest, Lyra, Damon, and Ira come face to face with the terrifying Shadow Dragon. The pacing here accelerates so dramatically, creating an incredible dynamic contrast. The story just refuses to let us catch our breath. It violently throws us from the quiet, agonizing, emotional trauma of Kian's memories right into a high-octane, life-or-death monster battle with his best friends. It's the ultimate crucible for their teamwork, really testing whether their resolve to get that moon crystal is stronger than their primal fear. And the true mastery of this narrative structure is how it snaps us right back to Kian. Simultaneously, literally as the dragon is breathing fire in the forest, Kian reaches his own emotional and psychological climax in the Shadow Realm. He's forced to finally confront the devastating truth Mordek has just laid out before him. The physical battle of the friends and the mental battle of our protagonists peak at the exact same moment. It is just a beautifully crafted layering of tension, forcing us to be completely, equally invested in two drastically different survival scenarios at the exact same time. Then, the dust settles, the screaming stops, and the battles seemingly come to an end. But what we're left with is deeply chilling. A black mark emerges on Kian's hand, slowly rising to the surface of his skin. It is this incredibly quiet, ominous conclusion to a violently chaotic sequence of events. Sure, he survived the intense encounter, but he absolutely did not escape untouched. The Dark Dimension and Mordek's manipulative fragment have literally left a lasting stain on our hero. They've branded him with the very darkness he is supposed to defeat. Which brings us to one final, horrifying realization. This black mark is a direct sign that Mordek's power is growing, and he has successfully marked the last arcane. So what does this dark symbol mean for Kian's survival? Is it a curse, like a tracking device linking their minds? Is Mordek now passively feeding off of Kian's own burgeoning magical energy? The stakes for Part 3 have officially been launched into the stratosphere. Kian's mind has been severely tested, his body has been marked, and his friends are still fighting for their lives in that forest. I don't know about you, but I am absolutely desperate to see how they navigate this impossible situation. So what do you think that mark actually does? We'll have to find out in the next chapter.